You are listening to the Hammersy Brothers e-commerce podcast. Like what you hear and want to take the shortcut on your e-commerce growth? Join hundreds of brands that work with us and head over to joinhb.com. That's joinhb.com and see how we can help you further. Join our members and smash your targets and unlock the profits within your e-commerce site. Hello Ian, how are you?
Hi Mark, I'm well. It's my brother.
Welcome
my
to
e-commerce brother. How are you?
E-commerce podcast, Hammersy Brothers e-commerce podcast. Yeah, we're all good. We just we thought today we'd do a podcast on how to purchase, red flags to watch when you're buying an e-commerce business. And the reason for that is because we've been working with a lot of people who've just recently bought e-commerce businesses or are looking to buy e-commerce businesses, and they've been talking to some of our staff about, what things to look for and what to avoid and all that kind of stuff. And we've worked with many people who've bought e-commerce businesses
and sold.
Some have been great and some have been difficult. Yeah. So
bought and sold.
We'll just go through some of those reasons.
Yeah, I also think if you've got an e-commerce business that you're thinking of selling, or at some point you're scaling it to sell, knowing how we would look at it if we were a potential purchaser will help you understand what another investor or a supplier or a bigger party would be looking at. So it's a very interesting topic because at some point in your journey, you will either sell it or shut it down. Ultimately, it's going to have to end. All businesses have to, at some point, you're either going to do a management buyout or you're going to, you're going to pass it to your children, or you're going to sell it. So, but either way, I think even if you have no plans of exiting, it is still really good to run your business as if you were, because you then have to have things right. It's organized. You have to have structure.
I mean, if you can't sell your business, if you could sell your business, by definition, you own a business that someone else wants to own, and if someone else wants to own it, it's a good business. So you should always run your business to make it sellable.
Sorry to interrupt you. But I have to interrupt you because you move on so quick. You don't give me a chance to get in.
It's ridiculous.
I'm desperate to get through this podcast. This is my therapy, for God's sake. I would say, the irony is when e-commerce owners say, I want to sell, we go, okay, let's fix it. Let's look at the things. And we start to implement the system. And then when we've implemented the system to get it to a point where they're sellable and it's profitable, and it's scaling really nicely, they go, I don't want to sell it now. Why? Because I love it. Because I fixed it. Because it's amazing. And it's so great.
A lot of people who go to sell the business, I'm going to sell the business, and you sell the business. And then they go and talk to a broker, and then they go, and the broker says, it's only worth this if you did this, this, and this. And then they go, oh, okay, I need to stay in the business and fix it. And so wouldn't it be better just to have that conversation as you're going, so you don't get to the point where you're desperate to sell it, only to find out that you should have done something in a certain way and built it up. So it's just always having that awareness that of being able to exit and having that possibility rather than having all
really important.
So we start going through some of the red flags.
Let's talk. I would say they are things that we. I mean, obviously, you'll do a fancy title to this podcast, which will be something like the 7 critical red flags that you need to know
That's
about.
That's Lorenz. He does the editing and he puts it into ChatGPT and he comes up with some crazy title.
And much to the horror
you will need to know unless you will die.
Yeah. And then much to the horror of people that listen to this podcast, we end up rambling and talking about, maybe 20 things of random importance, of no priority. But so we'll try our best to be concise and to the point. But I wouldn't say this is necessary. Some of them are red flags. Some of them are things that we just look at as an opportunity. They're not just necessarily a red flag. They're things that we go, ooh, there's an e-commerce business that we would buy tomorrow because it's got, it's unoptimized in some respect. But let's start with the big one, which is what most people will want to know, which is profitability. What is the true profitability?
What is the true profit? I mean, that's where the seller is most likely to, well, manipulate is a strong word, but like have everything in their favor, so the true cogs, the true, sometimes people have bought businesses and they found out they've got an extra freight cost, or they've got some kind of negative rebate they've got to pay over a certain period of time. And so that's the big thing to really dive into. And the revenue on the owner's spreadsheet should match the bank statement that's actually happening for the business, because you could, an owner's spreadsheet could be not made up, but could be like, wonderful, and look at this and this, and then the bank account doesn't actually reflect. And every business should have a bank account associated with it specifically for that business. So,
I mean, I think there are a couple of things within the profitability that you want to look for, which is like the returns rate, things like that. Is it a really high returns rate? Because they're the sort of things that possibly don't get asked. I mean, anybody who's listening to this, who is in our program or coaching mentoring group, will have the How Much Brothers e-commerce number sheet. So you will know exactly what your profitability is on any given day, week, month, year, quarter, and you'll know. So you'll know it all. But it's amazing. Before we created that number sheet all those years ago, how unaware you were about what was happening. You didn't necessarily know how many new customers. You didn't know what your CAC was. You didn't know what your profitability was. Had no idea what you were spending across certain channels and what your overall new customer was. You ain't got a bloody clue. So that's the first thing that I would want to know, is what the true profitability is. And then that would give me some idea of valuation. I think we won't get into valuations today. That's another topic. But the revenue and the profitability is part of the multiple that people will talk about. And when you get to, but it depends on different industries,
So you really want to look at the hidden costs that you might have. So, let's say you buy, actually just taking a step back, buying an e-commerce business that's like only 12 months old or 18 months old or something like that would be a red flag straight away for me, because it's so difficult to start something to actually analyze something that's only got that much little data on it. It could be a blast in the pan. There's lots of people trying to create these. That's probably where people, if you think someone's trying to fake something, they only want to do it for a year, 18 months, and then flip it and then keep flipping it. So something that's got longer than that, you need that amount of data to analyze it. And so we can then look at the true profitability, and we're looking for like hidden costs, hidden freight, hidden shipping, discounts, things like that. The other thing is like if they are really good at Google Ads, for example, and they're running the Google Ads in it, and you're taking it over and you're not good at Google Ads, and you're going to have an agency run it, or are there going to be the same costs when you run it compared to when someone else runs it? They might own a marketing agency, and they might have had someone just doing a little bit of time on the side as part of the program and doing some conversion rate optimization on it. You kind of need to understand the whole picture of how the costs are working. The other big thing is, like, obviously with e-commerce, you get the product from somewhere, you get the products from a supplier, and one of the big ones we've seen is that when someone's owned the business, someone said, oh, well, this is how much it costs. And then they've gone to the supplier and said, well, I'm the new owner. And they've said, well, I'm going to renegotiate with you, and the cost of the product's going to go up. And by the way, this other customer that we used to deal with, he had 5 stores, and so we gave him a better price than we can give to you. And or like worst case scenario, they've just turned around.
Trending.
Well, they've just said we're not going to deal with you at all. We're not taking on you.
Or they
we consider you a
the
new supplier.
Credit terms. Yeah, they might go, you were on a 120 days and now you're on a 30 days, and it's 50% up front.
Yeah. So you've got to identify those key risks, particularly if it's all coming from one supplier or a couple of suppliers. Who's running the Google Ads? Are they going to renegotiate with you afterwards? It's like, well, I was doing a favor for Ian and I was just giving him half price, but I don't know you, so you're going to have to go into the normal price. It's 3 times as much. Like all these things that look okay on the profit and loss may change, and so that can really affect the profitability as you take over. So
I think on that note, the other one what we'd talk about would just be why the owner is selling. So if you're talking about, hidden cost, and I'll get onto some more of the obvious ones in a minute, but yeah, going to that one, why is the owner selling? It like you said, if it's a really young business, if it's like less than 12 months old, what's going on? Or if it's been going for some time, why are they selling? And most of the time, people will say, "Oh, I've just had enough. I've done my thing and I'm happy, and I know that it needs to go to the next level, but I'm actually, I want to retire."
Everybody will say that in there. Everybody will say that in their listing for the business. It's like, this business has got such high potential, just haven't got the energy to grow it, and I don't, I'm going to do something else, or it's like someone could really take this and take it to the next level. So you've got to be careful of that kind of messaging. What businesses that we do, like the ideal business that I would look for is someone who's running a good business, but is running it from an emotional level, who's scared to spend big on it, which it should be big. You could see that they could spend big. The idea of that person, maybe they've been spending $10,000 a month on ads, and really they should be spending $100,000 on ads. There are just some people that will never be comfortable spending that amount.
Let's go into that before again you move on. So what we'll be looking for there is, can we hit the accelerator pedal hard based on the current math? So what we're saying is that, what's the margin? The hidden levers of any e-commerce business, in my opinion, is margin and lifetime customer value. There's like the hidden levers that are fundamental, because that dictates how aggressive you can be with your ad spend. And what we would want is to take a business that has the ability to drive at 100 miles an hour that's only being driven at 20 miles an hour. And so that would be effectively something that they'd be spending nowhere near the level of spend that they should be spending, and that will be based on margin, lifetime customer value, or cost of acquisition. So we're talking about, what's the CAC? I had a chat with a business tonight, and they were selling puzzle games, and they were selling them for about $30, and their margin was like 86%, which is an amazing margin, but they only buy once. So that would reduce its valuation for me, because they only ever buy once. They don't buy multiple games. And you can only get to about $30 for a board game. So that's the limitation. So that's why that business would would have. So that will be what I'm asking. I'm asking about the CAC. But if you found a business, there was a business that was bought recently that was selling homeware, like vases and things like that, and I won't go into too much detail, but he bought the business because it had a great margin, it had a good lifetime customer value, it had a little bit of a protective moat, which we'll come into, but it was underspending, it was under optimized, they were not spending enough, and the conversion rate could clearly be improved. And as a consequence, he's done really, really well. So I think should we summarize that one? I think it's the CAC, the customer acquisition cost at the moment, what they should be. So that first question when we ever meet a client is, what is their optimal spend? How much they should be spending to recruit a new customer? If we would identify that profitably should be $50 and they're only spending $10, we're like, right, brilliant. Off we go.
It's just really shaking the tree. Like, are there hidden transaction costs, like currency fees and things like that aren't being taken into consideration? Sometimes if you're selling abroad and bringing the money over, it can be like 4%, 5%, 6%. Sometimes, like
moved on from that one.
Well, anyway, the next one, which you talked about number 2, which was on my list, was like, does the business actually have customers or transactions, which is what you were talking a little bit there, because if it has customers, by definition they're going to buy again. Otherwise, they're not customers. Otherwise, you're just buying transactions, aren't you? Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were assuming that all customers will buy again. No.
Yeah, no. So if you're like buying, let's say you're buying a wedding dress shop, right? And you might have some word of mouth because people say, oh, where'd you get your dress and all that kind of stuff, and that helps. So you are buying a brand, but it's very different than buying like a supplement business where people are buying that product, like a dog supplement, and they're buying that product over and over and over and over again because the dog needs that supplement to stay alive and live a healthy life, and so therefore you're buying a stream of customers. So if you've got repeat business, when you buy the business, you're getting the email list, you're getting the email customer list, and that's worth something. If you're buying a business that doesn't have any repeat business, you're not really, the email list is worthless. What you're going to do is you send an email to the list and they just go, well, I've already got it. I don't want it again.
Unless you can add on a back end part of the business to get them to buy again. But in the case of a wedding dress, you can't. I mean, I think what I'll be looking for is what's the percentage of business that's new each month. So if you look at our number sheet, you'll know that's one of the metrics we track. It's the percentage of new customers every month. So if you had a business, so let's say they take a dog food business, their new customers will be something like 20%, maybe even less, like 15 to 20%, 20%-ish would be what their new customers. So 80% is coming from repeat, as that's how dog food works. It is tremendously loyal. So that's where, if you did nothing, if you did no acquisition, you've still got a really great, healthy existing customer base. And so you're then topping it up. So I think that's fundamentally, I mean, that's why subscription-based businesses and businesses that have lots of lifetime customer value and lots of retention, lots of repeat are worth more. And they are easier to scale often because you have this continuation of revenue coming from existing customers all the time. So that's obviously a big factor, but which is essentially CAC to lifetime customer value ratio, isn't it?
I wouldn't buy a business where I was thinking, oh, I've got loads of customers and I can bring in this other product and I can sell it to those existing customers. Because in my experience, if I'm relying on that as the only business case, it tends to not happen. You go, oh, I've got this product that everybody will love this product, and they'll buy this other one. And it's like, it's like trying to get people, like trains to change track. It's hard. Like, it
depends on it. It depends. I think it's so difficult to know that. But we're working with a gifting company now.
But basically, I wouldn't buy a business based on that, as that was the only business model, basically.
Yes,
because I know it can be difficult. Like I consider that as an upside. I think I could probably do this. I can probably sell this other product to them, but I'm certainly not going to build into my business case of buying it.
Well, some people don't necessarily know. I think you need to track it. You need to track it. If you've got a business that's getting more than 50% from existing customers every month, you are in the top percentile of repeat because it's unusual. So if I mean, and not necessarily, knowing that is interesting. I think, should we move on to?
Well, just wanted to say something about lifetime customer value. So you can't just look at that as a figure, as just one figure. Like, so if you just go, I'm just going to look at all the customers, I'm going to work out the lifetime customer value and see how it's going. You want to look at and Shopify's got this in the store, the customer cohort analysis, and look at it, how it's moving over time, because maybe the lifetime customer value was really big 2 years ago and now it's diving off, and maybe the average order value is coming down. You've got to see how it's dynamically moving within the business to see whether those figures
that customer cohort report in Shopify is the best report of anything in Shopify. But if you flick it to amount spent per customer, which is the top right, everyone will know. I don't know if people have ever seen it, but it's actually on the main analytics dashboard. If you flick it, then it will show you the amount they spent, which is so much more useful and it makes sense. Rather than looking at the percentage, just look at how much they spend. They spend $100 on the first purchase, and then by the end of the 12-month period, they spent $170 in total. There's your lifetime customer value. It's not like they spend 1.3 times or 25% and then repeat. No, how much money do I get? So much more easy to understand. And then you look at your CAC, what you're spending on ads, you go, well, and I look at your margin, we go, well, we're
is it trending up?
$15.
Is it trending down?
And they're spending $170. Yeah. Okay. Super.
Yeah. Super duper.
Do we go to the next one? Next thing we've noted down. I realise why we've got a discrepancy, because you've got a different list. Because I planned this podcast.
I don't know what list you're on.
Come up with some topic, right? And I came up with some topics, and on the way home from work, I wrote down my list in my phone, and then you've just you've messed it up, and you're going all over the place. So we need to go back. This is my podcast.
Which one are you going to do next? Then
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tell me which one. Just read it out.
I'm going to talk about the dependence on paid ads and about whether or not you are over leveraged to one platform. Because what you will hear, if I may, but what you'll hear is people saying you're over reliant upon paid ads. Now, I would say that there's no problem, and if you particularly reliant upon one channel, I think people who say, well, you're only spending on Google, and if Google changes, you should be spending on Meta, you should be spending on TikTok. I think that's ridiculous, because some businesses are hybrid businesses, and you can spend on Google and Meta and TikTok, and it will work. We have a couple of businesses like that we own. Other businesses, you just can't. You can only spend on Meta, and you can't spend on Google at all. The percentages are very different. So I think the other thing is, I mean, we've scaled businesses who in the program, we scaled businesses to like nearly 35 million a year on one paid channel before we've even bothered about adding another one. So, I mean, we like to keep things simple. We do not like to introduce other channels for the sake of it, just to think, well, maybe we can see.
Well, it's a bit like if you had a physical store, it's a bit like saying to, I'm trying to think of a good example, like Greg's Bakery, and saying you're completely dependent on being on the high street. Because let's say Google Ads is like having renting something on the high street. You're basically renting a shop on the high street. So, of course, Greg's is dependent on being on the high street because they're dependent on foot traffic. And so, but what are you going to do? Like, go and set up Greg's in the middle of the countryside? It doesn't make sense. So, the only one I say is SEO. I would be very worried about buying a business that was completely dependent on SEO, because you're playing the game with Google in a way it doesn't care about. It doesn't care whether it changes the amount of traffic you get sent, because it doesn't matter to it. Whereas if you're paying Google and you're paying Meta, at least you're playing the game in the way they want you to play it. And so, like, I've seen people lose
in a way
SEO rankings completely.
Oh yeah, but then in a way you think, well, if you've got really good SEO rankings and you've got a business at a certain size, can we add a paid channel to this and grow?
I still wouldn't. For me,
5 times as fast.
I would not want to buy a business that was completely dependent on SEO.
Well, listen, it comes on to the next point, right? Because this is one of the fundamental things about how we would assess whether or not we would buy an e-commerce business and what the valuation would be. Is it a proprietary brand? Like, is it your brand, or are you selling other people's stuff? That's a massive one. So are you selling other things? Are you selling products that you can buy anywhere? An example of that would be like the lawnmower guys that we work with. They were selling other people's products. It was selling other people's lawnmowers, and the average margin was between 15 and 20%. And they only bought once. So that business, it's not saying it's a bad business, but that business needed to be massive in order to make any meaningful profit.
Yeah.
It needed to be doing like 10, 20 million before it was like going to have a meaningful profit out of it, because the margin was low, and also you're selling other people's products. So that's a fundamental one, which kind of comes into the protective moat. So the worst example would be a drop shipper that's selling somebody else's product. You've really got nothing. No disrespect to drop shippers.
Unless you're drop shipping from a place that only allows you to drop ship from it, or only a few people.
Exclusive.
Very
exclusive.
exclusive.
That's really unfair what I've said. I think that's really unfair, because I do know some really successful businesses who operate on a dropship model, but they don't look like dropshippers. So
dropship is got a bad rap against it, because really all it is the way that the product gets delivered. But when people hear dropship, they hear people going to AliExpress, taking a product and sending it over,
it's like a
not doing anything.
Thing, isn't it?
Get rich quick thing. So, but there are lots of people who do drop shipping of like big items and things like that, where the factory makes it and then they send it direct to the client. Like particularly in B2B, where it can work.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be completely afraid of that. But again,
and you have to look at the market. I think I'll rewind. Who else is?
Yeah.
If we could be bothered, we would pause the podcast and go back, but we can't. So we'll carry on. So I think I'll rewind that to say that there are examples of some really good successful dropshippers who have done really well, that actually we work with, and we've got they're on the program now, and they're doing 15, 20 million. But I think what I'm looking for is what's the protective moat, and like, is there a protective moat around them? And I would say your own brand that is exclusive to you is part of that protective moat. I think the other one would be the size of the audience around you. So like, how big is your email database? How big is your Facebook followers? How big is your Instagram followers? I'm not saying that is, also I think the other one would be how many reviews you've got. So if you've got Trustpilot, how many reviews on Trustpilot have you got? And if you've got 5,000, 10,000, 4.9 reviews, it's a real protective moat around it. So you go, massive email database, great followers on Instagram, 10,000 reviews on Trustpilot reviews. They are things that will not be on the numbers sheet. They're nothing to do with profitability. But they are protective assets, and a proprietary brand that's yours. Then I'd be more inclined to invest in that. In the flip side, for the opposite would be a product that is third party, you can get anywhere, that's not unique to you, no reviews on any authoritative review site, no email database whatsoever at all, and no followers on Facebook or Instagram. That would be where you are much more exposed.
To somebody just coming along and doing it. I mean,
because
some of these sellers, they'll set a site up selling something. They'll go and set up another one selling the same thing and try and sell it to someone else. And like, do they have a non-compete? Those kind of things. So you're basically saying whether it's differentiated brand-led, or is it just something that it can be easily copied? We do see some people selling other people's brands when they'll go over to, like, they'll be a UK site, they go over to America, they'll do a deal and say, look, this is a really popular something in the US. We'll sell it into the UK as long as you give us three years of exclusivity
for
selling the product.
I mean, that could be fantastic. Actually, it's a business we're working with now, selling like tools and equipment, woodworking stuff. And they're fantastic. They've got a fantastic following, a real good, authentic business. It's not their product, but they have exclusivity. And that is as good as. I think that's a fantastic, and they've got very good support from their suppliers.
Yeah. I mean, what happens as well for people in the UK, they watch all the podcasts and all the stuff, it's all American, and they go, we recommend you use this tool. And it's like, you sit in the UK and you go, I can't get that tool here. So that all this pent up demand gets building, and people start trying to import it, and someone just goes, hey, we've got the product. Do you want it? And I've seen that for supplements. I've seen that for tools. I've seen it for seen it for lots of different things. Basically, wherever there's people.
Right now, I'm doing up my old Porsche. I have a classic 911, and I'm like, it's massive following in America. Lots of the big best tool and part companies in the US, and they won't sell it to me. It's really annoying.
Longevity of demand, where the product trend is something.
Yeah, I think that's another word gone. So here's another protective moat. So talking about, is it a fad? Is it trending? And you've heard us say before that we like boring businesses, and we like boring businesses because they tend not to change as much. So a boring business would be somebody selling car batteries. It's a pretty boring business because the car batteries don't change. Whereas an exciting business that will be something like fashion or, dare I say it, because there'll be lots of people listening to this, because we work with a lot of you, homeware businesses, who, they are more exciting, but as a consequence, they change a lot more and the trends change. And so that's a risk in a way, because we have to, and especially if you've got stock and lead time, which we'll come on to, stock management, lead time, procurement stuff. If it's a longer lead time, that you're then putting a bet in 7 months' time, what people are going to buy? Are they going to buy turquoise neon salt and pepper pots? I don't know.
Like I wouldn't be going to buy, like at the moment, like a beef tallow, right? Beef tallow became a massive trend on TikTok of people putting essentially beef fat on their skin and going how amazing it was, right? That fad will be over, and they're not the numbers that are coming up.
Don't you?
Supplements, yeah. What's trending at the moment is actually, I don't want to say the word. You know what I mean? I can't say it because I don't want to say the word, because then we won't be able to promote it on Google. It's how can I say it? It's like the stuff that people use for weight loss and those kind of new types of they're not drugs, they're called folded proteins. The P word.
Yes.
But they're trending massively at the moment. It was going absolutely nuts. And so they're coming up. Like anything that's kind of a fad or is trending or those kind of things are very difficult businesses to invest in.
You need to be careful with that word as well, just so you don't offend lots of our clients.
Yeah.
But yes, so if it's come out of nowhere, if a trend, I mean, I always go and look at Google Trends. I was going, look at Google Trends, and I go, is it come out of nowhere and like gone berserk? But then it can also go the other way. What I quite like is if it's a consistent, gradual growth, because then it's building. If it kind of spikes up, I don't mind seasonality. I got no problem with seasonality. I quite like seasonal businesses, because you can normally grow them quite aggressively in the peak, because they're normally unoptimized. But I think that the consistent long-term demand, I think, is important. And the other one would be probably the only dependency, which is what we said before. But sometimes you find that the owner is the name of the brand, and they also do all the ads. So I mean, there's loads of famous brands. I mean,
I don't really mind the owner's name,
Joe Malone, and
I don't like. I think a lot of people have that worry that if they build a business around themselves with their name on it, they won't be able to sell it. But that's not the case.
It's definitely a fallacy, yeah.
Yeah, like Marks and Spencer's, all John Lewis, like they're all names of people, are huge. There is you've got to, like the owner proficiency. So like, for example, when our father sold our bakery business, the guy that bought it off him thought it was going to be fine. But what he didn't realize is that Dad was amazing at every time a machine fixed, he could do it himself. Every time something happened, like he knew how to do it. Like he'd been in that business for such a long time that the new owner didn't realize how much more expenses he was going to have without having Dad and Dad's uncles who could just pop in and change a part and do those kind of things. And so if you're buying an e-commerce business, like, what is the background of the owner and what can they do? Like, are they really good at coding? Are they really good at ads? Like, are they really good at split testing? Like, how does that compare to the people you're going to put in the business? Because you're going to have extra costs if you're not as good as that.
Yeah, I think so. I think we touched a bit on that before. I think the other big one, just moving on slightly, is around stock management, cash flow, lead times for stock, where it comes from, how long it takes to get the product from placing the order to arriving and in your shelves ready to go, and what the trading terms are. So, and I mean, there's a business I was chatting to the other day that's in a program that's just joined, and they're doing about 20 million, and they deliberately get their products from Europe, not China, because even though that's a lower margin, because we can get it in like a week.
In
a week they can go. It gets on a truck and it comes all the way from Europe. And it's low margin, but the effect that has means that their warehouse is a fraction of the size that it would need to be. It's tiny compared to £20 million business. The warehouse is tiny. Their cash flow is not tied up. They can react very quickly, and they have a very efficient stock rotation. Their stock turnover is really quick. I think I read somewhere that if you're turning over your stock more than 6 times a year, it's good. If it's less than 2, it's bad. So if you've got stuff sat there that isn't shifting, it's cashed, it's tied up in stock. So I think that's a big one. So what I would like, the perfect businesses for me are some of the UK beauty, health and beauty businesses that we work with, who are compounding businesses that are scaling rapidly because they've got a kind of key things. They've got great margin, great lifetime customer value, and the stock is made, the product's made in the UK, and it has a 7-day lead time, like less. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, think about it. Think about that.
Like Goatbook Stuff, for example, they farm soap in the farm in the USA. So they haven't had any problems with tariffs or anything like that. That hasn't affected them. They haven't had to import anything.
They have problems with their label machine, and they have problems with their kids rowing about how to cut the soap. I get all of this. It's
I got that. They sent me some soap the other day. I got
I got some lovely
8 bars of soap. Our whole house smells of soap now.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. But the stock management, cash flow, how much cash is tied up in inventory is a key one.
So you want to look at their accounts to see how close to the bone they go when they have to do that big stock order, and how much cash they might have to inject into the business to cover that period.
But on the other flip side, sorry, I keep you over talking because I'm just more interested than you, I think. If sometimes these things are real opportunities because you can negotiate with suppliers. You can go in and you can say, right, I want 120-day credit, or I want you to, give me a better margin. Sometimes you can really make these an opportunity. A lot of these things are relative to your industry.
You can't go into it. You can't buy a business with the belief that you could renegotiate terms. You need to have a pretty solid idea about it.
I didn't say you should buy a business based on your ability to
we're trying to avoid
terms. But if it's
flags.
one of, God, honestly, it's so hard working with your brother.
Just pointing out your fallacies. So what I'm saying is basically, yes, for example, let's say you come into a business, you go, I can scale this. Like, it's doing 10 grand a month, paid spend. I can do 100K. If you go and talk to suppliers, say, look, I'm going to be the new supplier. You're going to be happy, sign somebody to say you're okay with me taking over the agreement. This price is blah, blah, blah. And then you say, okay, by the way, I'm looking to 10x this business. If I 10x this business, how would that affect my margins? Then you can have a conversation about, okay, well, if you went up to that, you'd be able to take a whole production line, and then you'd be able to come down to this and blah, blah. Certainly you can have those conversations.
In my opinion, businesses do not engage with suppliers anywhere near as much as they should do in terms of getting them part of that growth. What the supplier wants is more volume. What you want is more volume. But if you educate them and say, this, look, I'm going to get more volume if I have a better margin. If I have a better margin, I can spend more on ads. If I spend more on ads, I can increase my volume. Let's do it together. And it's a simple conversation, and that's why the number sheet, which we have, the margin calculator on the number sheet, shows you that. So I think it's really well. I could have, dare I just really try and summarize one last point? I think,
can I
ultimately
want to say one thing first?
Yeah.
I was just going to say the other thing is declining businesses. So, like, do you want to step into something that's declining? If you can see an obvious reason for it, fair enough. But if it's just declining year on year on year on year, and you don't know why, and the business owner doesn't know why, that's a red flag. It could just be a declining market, and declining markets can accelerate, can't they? Or de-accelerate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of a declining market where it's really gone out of favor. It's really fallen. It tends to be trend led.
Well, printing. Like, think about printing. You used to be into printing. You used to own a printing.com franchise, didn't you? You just gradually saw less people buying brochures.
You just ruined all my credibility there. No, I haven't. It's great business. I was like 20. Yeah.
You were 20 years old.
Yeah. People used to be doing a lot more print, obviously, and it changed. I actually thought you meant printers. Printers for home. Printers. Everybody used to have a printer.
Yeah.
They're not a printer anymore. Phones. House phones. Things like
phones.
that. There are certain trends of movements that you wouldn't. To be honest, most of it's pretty obvious. I mean, I always go and have a look at. I mean, I would like to buy a business that is growing and the market is growing. However, you look at the overall size of the market, and if you're doing 2 or 3 million, and the market is 1.5 billion in the UK. Here's an interesting question. Listen to this. This is mind-boggling. I was listening to the news in the UK, and they were talking about birdseed, right? And when you think how big certain markets are, and they said that how big do you think the UK market is for birdseed that consumers are buying in the UK? How much money do you think UK consumers are spending on birdseed?
And this, I haven't given it a lot of thought. No, to be honest,
but
I don't know, like 100 million or something ridiculous.
Right. There's two figures now. I've forgotten what it is. Right, but it's either 300 million or 800 million. And
really?
I just thought, how the hell is UK people spending 300 million? You're googling it now, aren't you?
How big is ChatGPT? Seeing it.
Yeah. See what it says.
Yeah.
Because there are these. That's insane. That's obscene. Things. It's insane. So like you go, well, I only want how many?
380 million.
Yeah, 380 million pounds in 2023 on birdseed.
Yeah.
And the news article came about because apparently in the summer and spring you're not supposed to put birdseed out because it spreads infection for the other birds because it has a disease and it kills your birds. That's why certain bird populations. So the news article came out, and I was thinking, oh, that's an interesting article. What I was most staggered about was the fact that we as UK people spent 380 million on birdseed. I thought, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Because you'd look at that market and you'd go, birdseed? If somebody came to me and said, oh yeah, I sell birdseed. I was like,
you go, yeah, well,
yeah. It's never going to scale.
Do you want to know what it is in the US? Do you want to know what it is in the US?
Yeah.
3.16 billion for 2025.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing. Right, we're selling it birdseed.com. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the next e-com.
Here we go.
Whoever sells birdseeds, listen to this podcast. You need
seeds are good. We've got some seed sellers on the program. Like, that's a great business. Selling seeds.
Yeah, great margin, great repeat.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point I was making is that if you're in a market that is declining a little bit, it's still normally more than big enough for you to make a meaningful amount of profit out of it. So wouldn't necessarily worry. I think unless you want to talk about birdseed anymore.
No, but I've got to go. I have to go.
You got to go. Well, summary was we are looking for an unoptimized business. We're looking for an e-commerce business that we can pull the lever. We want to know, overall, can we push this business harder? Can we put it under more pressure? And the answer to that is always normally yes. But occasionally we find a business that has got such a good protective moat. It's nowhere near being pushed hard enough as it is. And that's why we love our job. And that's ultimately what we're doing. Everybody really that we're working with is on that journey, aren't they? I mean, over the hundreds of people that are on the program, and thousands of businesses that we've talked to over the years, they're all on that journey, and lots of them have scaled successfully. And it's really interesting looking back. When you look back and you sold it for X million, you look back and you go, "Oh, it's obvious what we did. We just need, you can see it more clearly."
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and if you are thinking about buying something, just shoot us an email, see what happens. We might be able to, give you some advice.
Well, if you talk to my brother, he will dissuade you because he's incredibly negative and pessimistic. If you talk to me, I'm excited, enthusiastic. I'll tell you to buy it immediately.
Between the two of us, you'll get the right answer. Like if you go halfway between the two, you'll be okay. Yeah.
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 All right then. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you very much.
Cheerio. Bye.
Okay. Bye.